doll, and they've had to go through this hypnotic, suggestive words that will make them think that they're literally this kind of doll, which they would then be used, for all kinds of sick, unimaginable things.
I remember reading a while back about how also stars can be used as agents for various purposes. We can talk about it in the context of CIA, MI5 or 6 or whatever secret service intelligence.
There's lots of good work on the Beatles and how they were actually MI6 agents and all of that kind of thing. But it's impossible to know like who is working for who is a victim, who is a programmer, it's difficult to tell. We can see like some obvious ones like Anna Nicole Smith's Howard K. Stern, and there are a few others that I've mentioned. But overall, like the public figures, it's hard to know who's under control or who's being controlled, if you know what I mean. But people like Michael Jackson, he's obviously been under control. I mean, his abuse as a child isn't really disputed. His dad is well known as abusing the Jackson children. And I mean, just today, for instance, they're selling off all of Michael Jackson's his stuff basically from the Neverland Ranch, which is more programming because he's obviously he does abuse children clearly. I mean, even though he was found not guilty, I don't think there's any doubt that he did. But that's mainly because of his own programming, and which is clearly Neverland, Never Grow Old, Tinkerbell programming, where he just never wants to grow old. He wants to spend all his time loving children, which is really a kind of twisted thought, but I think it's very much the truth. And even the Neverland Ranch, the coat of arms of it is virtually exactly the same as the British royal coat of arms, with the lion on one side, with the unicorn in chains on the other side.
Really? Okay, I need to.
And it's got there's if you check out the Daily Mail, there's an article with all the pictures of the various things, and there's a portrait of Michael Jackson dressed up as a king, like a monarch, which plays into monarch programming. And he's got a symbolic crown, and he's selling off a Mickey Mouse Magic Kingdom drinks cooler. It's just all, and a Superman, which is all of these kind of different characters, all these different creatures. They can be used in programming by making the victim either think that they are actually this thing, or have them as just being part of as a trigger, or there's so many different kind of possibilities. They're kind of infinite that it's sort of, you just have to do your best at portraying which things can be used and which things have been used in mind control. But it's a difficult thing, and they're selling a robotic Michael Jackson head along with a crown and everything. It's just a big, and there's just to show the Peter Pan programming. There's a golf cart with Michael's face as Peter Pan. Okay, and it's just so crazy.
Do you think it's could be the case also that they're constantly using symbols, and then they have the fairy tale mythology. They have this constant theme of going back to your childlike state. The image of Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland.
The cyclone takes Dorothy into Oz, and then everything comes into color. That's basically portraying dissociation into an alternate reality. And which is basically the same as tumbling down, the rabbit hole to Wonderland.
Yes.
And if you look, this is a common theme in pretty much all Disney films and basically most fairy tales, where some kind of, or if I could just stick with films actually here, for instance, the Disney movie Enchanted. It starts out in a 2D, in like a Disney cartoon, and then the princess, which is played by Amy Adams, she goes tumbling down this fountain, and then the spiral comes up, and then she changes dimensions into our reality. So it shifts from this false 2D reality into the real 3D reality. which is kind of portraying how the spiral and how it's related to the cyclone, and circles. It's all about circling into an alternate reality and, becoming dissociative. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And it's, again, this idea of that you're being drawn into it. And again, these things have a dual, aspect to them.
Yeah, they're so multi-layered. It's kind of hard to explain the actual specifics behind every single symbol.
Isn't it also about also becoming kind of just savvy to the symbolism being used and just noticing the parallels between one film or another, or one music video and another?
Yeah.
It's all about becoming aware of the key elements that are being used, and then of course people can do their own research on that and discover maybe new symbols and new elements that are being used that maybe people like you and I even haven't thought of. You know what I mean? It's like it's a discovering process in a sense, and we're learning a little bit as we go along here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean I'm sure you grew up really loving films, right? I mean,
yes,
films are one of the most enjoyable things that you do as you grow up as a child. They encourage imagination, although they do have a lot of negative effects. Obviously, they keep you in a low level trance kind of thing as well, if you think of it like that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, these films, they're really good entertainment, but at the same time, as you grow up, you surely must be able to pick up on some of these similarities, because they seem to repeat themselves so often, especially in the kids' films by Disney and things like that.
Yes.
Where it's just, there seems to be the same themes repeated over and over and over again. I mean, Alice in Wonderland is obviously the prime example. They're remaking it now with Tim Burton, who's done a lot of interesting work.
Yeah, definitely. He's a very interesting director and has a lot of those themes running in
yeah,
it
I mean,
as well.
just for instance, last night I was just watching Big Fish. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen it, definitely.
Yeah, where it's got Miley. Did you know Miley Cyrus was in that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was in there as Destiny Hope, which is obviously her real name, but it was changed to Miley Cyrus later. And anyway, in Big Fish, they have the kind of circus with what's his name as the ringmaster, the British actress, can't remember his name. He's kind of short. But anyway, he's got this little buddy of his who, for a lot of it, half of his face is covered in white and half of it isn't painted, and he's wearing a checkerboard kind of suit, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's this ringmaster guy, he's in control of the circus, and which has as its performers people like the twin girls who are connected at the middle, but they're two separate bodies above, which is kind of mind control symbolism with two personalities in one kind of body.
There you go.
And there's just so many, and in so many of Tim Burton's films there are these kind of repeated themes that it's difficult not to take notice. Especially Tim Burton, he's crazy.
I think even he got involved in what's her name? She's in Fight Club and a few other. She's
Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah.
There you go. She'll
be in the new Alice in Wonderland. But I think Tim Burton, he's married her. Yeah. So basically, she is his kind of slave, if you will.
And one thing that I did want to get into with the aspect of like Helena Bonham Carter, there's so many others we can mention, but that is the bloodline connection to many of these actors, actresses, music stars. It's like seemingly on the surface, this is just that image of every man or whoever gets that gets known and gets to be a big star and everything. Everyone's happy. Wow, she made it or he made it or whatever. Yeah,
but that's just a complete myth.
There you go. Yeah,
the myth of the like nobody coming up and becoming a big movie star is complete rubbish. I mean, sticking with Helena Bonham Carter as an example, I mean, I've just got her wiki page here, which I posted most of this information in a post about them. But her mother, Elena, was a psychotherapist, so obviously she would know a lot about programming, little children. But she could be a victim herself, so it's a difficult thing to talk about, really.
Sure.
And her father was a merchant banker who represented the Bank of England at the IMF, which is a big illuminist thing to keep, the world's money consolidated and everything. And yeah, he himself came from a British political family, and so that's just one example of how these actresses, they seem to be almost sort of made to do it from an extremely young age. Well, and you can usually find these things out if they start acting or dancing or whatever when they're like 7 or something like that.
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
Helena has Rothschild blood in her, isn't that right? Isn't that on the wiki page?
That could be. Hold on.
I need to look up on that, but I think I remember that was.
Yeah, I mean the Rothschild is mentioned there, but I'm not sure if there's actual blood relation or if it's just someone who they knew. But yeah,
okay.
I mean,
Anyway.
that would surprise me as well. I think that goes way back to her grandfather. But yeah, that's a great example showing that this, obviously the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, these are the kind of families that these people are coming from.
Yeah. There's so much to obviously get into here. We can maybe spend a little bit of time on the abusive aspect to this. We talked about it in the context of Michael Jackson, who, by the way, I remember a while back, a really interesting kind of incident, and these things never seem to be accidents either, but he was kind of his kids were like photographed for the first time ever, what it was, and I think that this took place in the Luxor Hotel of all places in Las Vegas, and they've actually been on a ventriloquist, what do you call it, like a show with a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And I think that the main guy, I can't find this article as we speak here. I'm going to try to dig it up later on, but I remember specifically that this ventriloquist was very much into the dragon motif as well. He always had a dragon that kind of was doing the talking, as it were,
Yeah, yeah.
Things like that, speaking to the reptilian part of the brain, going to the core of the emotional and even the fear in that sense. And that's why I think that the reptilian motif, for instance, is so commonplace and popping up all the time. What do you think about a motif like the dragon or the snake? Reptilian?
Well, yeah, the serpent is obviously it's the phallus as well, so that kind of gets into the reptilian brain, and where sex and violence are essentially the same. The reptilian brain is nothing to do with kind of actual reptilians. It's just a part of the brain which we all have. But yeah, the actual imagery of the dragon and the serpent is interesting, because obviously that kind of primal fear that's kind of embedded in all humans from the very dawn of time, which you can see in all of the old ancient arts where these snakes are drawn, and different kind of scary sea monsters of all kinds of tentacle creatures. I kind of view them all as being kind of phallic kind of symbols, where it's symbolic of kind of sexual violence, which is obviously where most of the dissociation is caused as a child during the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
But and just as an example of this, David Lynch's daughter, I forget her first name.
I think Jennifer Lynch.
Yeah, Jennifer. Yeah, I did a post on her and David, and she has a movie coming out called Nagaz, which I'm sure that probably rings a few bells. Naga.
Yeah, snake.
So the ancient snake people, which I think Michael Tessarian has gone into them quite a bit.
Yes.
From India, and so the fact that Lynch and his movies contain so many mind control themes, from in obviously the main example being
Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, maybe.
Yeah, Mulholland Drive as well, which even has Billy Ray Cyrus in it. But
there you go. Yeah, that's right.
But Inland Empire has got loads of mind control themes. Oh, sorry, no, his main TV show, what's that called again? Forgotten it for some reason.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, Twin Peaks. That is loaded with mind control, because it's essentially about this girl who has been abused by this Bob, which you can view as kind of the kind of evil which makes these people abuse their little children. And she enters the Black Lodge and the White Lodge. There's the Black